The big crystal light hung from the ceiling like trapped sunshine in the rich man's dance room. Golden light fell across the shiny marble floor. The air smelled like expensive roses brought from Paris. Every guest wore fancy clothes that showed they had lots of money and power. In the middle of everything stood Adrian Maroro, a very rich man who loved to show off. On that cool afternoon, in front of a small group of wealthy people, he did something that made everyone stop talking. He smiled a little and held up 4 shiny black credit cards with no spending limits. One by one, he gave them to 4 women wearing beautiful ball gowns. People gasped and their eyes got big when they saw this display of money and power. But nobody could guess that what happened next would not come from the rich man or the 4 fancy women. It would come from the quiet cleaning lady standing in the corner, still wearing yellow rubber gloves. If you believe in being kind, giving people second chances, and finding strength in regular people, please take time to like, comment, share, and follow Kindness Corner. Your help lets us make more powerful stories that touch your heart. Adrian Maroro had always lived thinking that money could buy anything. He was born rich. His days were full of business meetings, fancy art sales, and expensive dinners where rich people tried to act like they were better than everyone else. But under his confident smile was a sadness he never talked about. The 4 women he invited that day were Isabel wearing red, Marcia in black, Clarice in gold, and Selena in dark blue. They were all used to expensive things. Each one wanted his attention. Each one thought that being pretty and charming would win his love. But for Adrian, giving them these cards was not about love. It was about control. He wanted to see who would act the best when they had endless money to spend. Among all the shiny marble, silk dresses, and sparkling lights, one person did not fit in. Her name was Sophia Levine. She was the cleaning lady who had worked quietly in Adrian's big house for almost 2 years. She wore a simple work uniform. Her brown hair was tied back neatly. She always looked down when guests were around. Most people did not notice her. She was just part of the house staff that everyone took for granted. But Sophia carried a heavy sadness that money could never fix. She was raising her 8-year-old son Elias all by herself. Her husband had died in an accident at a factory where the bosses cared more about making money than keeping workers safe. She worked long hours and often did not eat so her boy could have food. She saved every penny she could, hoping to give him a better life someday. When Adrian waved his hand dramatically and the women gasped at their unlimited cards, Sophia was in the corner quietly picking up glasses from a table. Her heart felt heavy as she watched. She did not feel jealous of the women. Instead, she thought about how many children would go to bed hungry that night in the city while so much money was being thrown around like a game. She tried to stop thinking about it. Cleaning ladies were supposed to work, not think. But Adrian's eyes met hers for just a moment, and something changed. The 4 women held their cards tightly with bright eyes. They whispered excitedly about what they would buy. One talked about getting a big house in France. Another wanted jewels fit for a queen. Another dreamed of having endless fancy clothes. The room buzzed with shallow happiness. Then Adrian, feeling curious and playful, looked back at Sophia. He smiled in a mean way and asked, "And you, cleaning lady, what would you do if I gave you one of these cards?" The room went completely quiet. The women turned to stare at her. Their faces showed they thought the idea was funny and stupid. Sophia froze. Her hands shook as she put the glasses on her tray. She could feel everyone's eyes on her. Her first thought was to look down and say nothing, to disappear into the background like always. But then she thought of Elias. She remembered his thin body, his hopeful eyes, the way he asked her why other kids at school had so much while he had so little. Taking a deep breath, Sophia looked up. For the first time, her voice did not sound like a servant's voice. It sounded like the voice of someone telling the truth. She said she would not take the card for herself. Instead, she would use it to open a safe place for children with no homes. She would help mothers who had nowhere to go after being left alone. She would feed hungry people who walked the streets with nothing but sadness. She talked about making a place where people could laugh again after forgetting how. Her words were not practiced or fancy like rich people's speeches. They were raw, shaking, and real. The quiet that followed was heavier than gold. The four women moved uncomfortably. They held their cards tight against their chests, like they were afraid someone would steal them. Adrian's mean smile slowly went away. Something he had never felt before took its place. He had expected greed, maybe a desperate beg to escape poverty. But instead, he found honesty that cut deeper than any diamond. In that moment, the crystal light above seemed to shine brighter, like the light itself was listening. The women laughed nervously, trying to make Sophia's words seem unimportant. But Adrian's mind was somewhere else. He remembered his own childhood in the cold halls of wealth, where warmth was only measured by money, never by love. He realized that in all his years of having too much, he had never given anything without expecting something back. Yet here was a cleaning lady with nothing, wanting to use wealth not for herself, but for people everyone had forgotten. Days went by after that evening, but Adrian could not stop thinking about Sophia's words. The women showed off their new cards, bragging about trips and fancy things, but their laughter sounded empty. Adrian found himself going to the small rooms where Sophia lived in his mansion. He asked her about her ideas. She was unsure at first, thinking he was making fun of her. But slowly, she shared her dream. There was an empty warehouse she passed on her way home. She dreamed it could become a safe haven. She described small beds, warm food, a playground for children, and shelves full of books to teach them stories of hope. Then one morning, something amazing happened. Adrian called reporters together. But instead of announcing a new business or expensive art purchase, he announced money for a new community shelter. He told everyone that the idea had come not from business experts or partners, but from a cleaning lady who dared to dream. Camera lights flashed. Reporters leaned forward. For the first time in years, Adrian spoke not as a rich man showing off his money, but as a person inspired by kindness. The shelter opened months later. Its walls were painted with colors the children picked themselves. Sophia stood at the door on opening day. Tears shined in her eyes as she watched Elias laugh with other children on the new playground. Mothers cried happy tears as they got warm meals. The air was filled with the sound of joy being born again. Adrian was there too. He was not the untouchable rich man anymore. He was a person who had learned that real wealth was not measured in cards or jewels, but in the lives you touch. If this story touched your heart, please do not forget to like, share, and follow Kindness Corner. It helps us keep sharing stories that remind us about the power of caring and being human.